Hello, and welcome to Travel Tales, my weekly podcast. I'm Isabella, the virtual travel agent within the new Journey Hero travel app that will soon be available for you to download. Each episode of this podcast, we visit a particular location around the world and speak with travellers that are empowered by Journey Hero every day. The shifting sands of the desert are mysterious and forbidding. In 1812, Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, a Swiss explorer, happened upon the wonderful ruins of Petra in Jordan, an ancient Nabatean city that was once prosperous and green. Petra is the Greek word for rock, and describes how the city was carved from the living sandstone to create incredible buildings, tombs, and treasuries. This ancient city is in the Bible, and yet it disappeared from the earth until it was rediscovered. Now it is beautiful to visit. I've asked my friend Adrienne, an intrepid explorer of life, to share her thoughts on Petra. How are you today, Adrienne? Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks, Isabella. It's a pleasure to be here, especially as we'll be discussing one of my favorite places, Petra. Ever since watching the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade with my mom, I've been in love with this mysterious place. Petra is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's so interesting.
Petra is definitely a unique place. Let me tell our listeners a bit about the history of Petra. It is an ancient city located about 240 kilometers south of Amman, the capital of Jordan. It was first inhabited more than 11,000 years ago. During classical times, the Nabateans turned the desert green within this incredible city. It was the capital of their kingdom, made into a beautiful artificial oasis by gifted engineers who created impressive water management systems. The Nabateans became very wealthy because they controlled the trade routes that carried goods from India and the Arabian Gulf into the Seleucid, Egyptian and Roman empires from 600 BCE to at least until the 4th century. The Nabateans eventually became rich and powerful enough to attract the avarice of the Romans. After the Romans captured the territory, the site went into decline and eventually was only inhabited by the occasional Bedouin family, practically disappearing until it was rediscovered in 1812. By that time, the site had been reclaimed by the desert with centuries of sand build-up. Today, it is a massive archaeological site that is impressive in its scale and preservation. It is one of the magical places of the earth. Adrienne, will you tell our listeners some of your favourite things to see whilst in Petra?
Sure. The Petra site is obviously the main attraction. It's enormous. It's bigger than I thought it was going to be, and it's so impressive, both in its style and its scale. It's huge. The site covers 264 square kilometers, or 102 square miles. And with so much to see, it's important to pace yourself. The Valley of Petra is called Wadi Rum in Arabic, which means Valley of the Romans. Right before entering Wadi Rum, you pass through Wadi Musa, which is the Valley of Moses. Tradition says that Moses led his people of the Exodus through this valley, and they were dying of thirst. Moses struck a rock twice with his staff, and water gushed forth. The site of this miracle is a small mosque beside the main road into Wadi Rum. I always stop at this little site, tread the stairs down to the source of the spring, and drink its cool waters. I immediately feel a connection to centuries of our ancestors.
Wow, that sounds really cool. And that's even before you enter the Petra site.
Yes, that's right, Isabella. Next, I love the mysterious trek through the canyon called Al-Sik. At the end of this 1 kilometer super tight canyon, it opens up to show the treasury. It's the most famous of the Petra structures and the one that's featured in Indiana Jones. 1 second, you cannot see anything but canyon walls, and then you take a slight bend and the treasury and all of its glory stretches out right in front of you.
Al-Sik is the perfect dramatic portal to the Petra site. Did you know there are also daily candlelit tours through Al-Sik that end at the treasury where Bedouin artists play live music? It's a mystical experience that is not to be missed.
Of course, every visitor should take a candlelight tour. Next, for anyone who's a bit of a thrill seeker, you'll want to visit the High Place of Sacrifice. It's an altar at the top of the canyon where blood sacrifices were made. Typically, it was just animals, but there is record of human sacrifice in other Nabatean sites, so we don't know for sure. It's such a great adventure climbing to it, though, as you'll tread through thousands of stairs, and then at the end you're forced to climb a ladder which is cut right into the rock.
Ah, yes, my favourite spot in all of Petra. The high place of sacrifice perches precariously 170 metres, or 560 feet, above the canyon floor. It is a 45-minute hike up seemingly endless stairs until the last 8 metres or 25 feet, which must be climbed. The view of the high sacrifice place and from its unguardrailed edge cannot be missed or forgotten, and afterwards you can return by way of a long hike rather than all those stairs. A great recommendation. Speaking of other great recommendations, listen to this important message. And now, a word from our sponsors, the Journey Hero travel app. Soon you will be able to download the coolest new travel app available anywhere. The Journey Hero travel app puts the power of artificial intelligence on your phone to locate fantastic deals that are tailored just for you. The best part is that after you book and even pay, Journey Hero will continue to look for better deals. When it finds a better deal, it will give you the option to change, and if you accept, it will refund the difference in fees to your credit card. No vouchers or in-store credits, just money back on your form of payment. How cool is that? Everyone wants an unexpected windfall. Now, back to our podcast. Petra is just one site in the area. What are other things to see and do in the region, Adrienne?
The area around Petra contains fabulous sights. One of my favorites is Karak Castle, a seemingly impenetrable fortress built by the Frankish Crusaders. It's overlooking the valley below and all the way to the Sea of Galilee. This is an enormous castle, and the town that grew around its walls is a great place for lunch and shopping. In fact, there are Crusader forts all around the area, and it's quite cool to explore some of the lesser visited ones, because you'll likely be by yourself.
That sounds really interesting. Anything else worth suggesting?
Yes. The Dead Sea, though it has been drying up for decades, is a place that you really must see before it's gone. There are great resort hotels built along the shoreline that are now quite some distance from the salt water. The Dead Sea is the lowest place on Earth, with an elevation of 1,360 feet below sea level. The water is so salty and full of minerals that it is impossible to walk more than a few feet into the water before your feet fly out from underneath you. Don't worry though, it's very hard to drown in the Dead Sea because everything floats. The mud there is supposed to be very good for your skin, and everybody cakes it on themselves when they're there.
Those are all great recommendations, Adrienne. I didn't realise Jordan had so much to offer outside of the capital of Amman.
Oh yes, Jordan is beautiful and it's full of interesting sights. There are other places of interest too, including the Tomb of Moses, the baptism place of Jesus, and the many ruins of thousands of years of habitation. Jordan is just waiting to be discovered.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, Adrienne. Do you have any last thoughts or recommendations on Petra and its surroundings?
Just one more, Isabella. Nighttime in this region is spectacular. Low humidity in the desert means that the skies are crystal clear. With little light pollution in the desert, it's possible to look up and see the majesty of the Milky Way galaxy. For a city dweller like myself, this is a wondrous sight. Maybe our ancestors were used to seeing this, but I'd like to think that they were in awe too. And that is one of the reasons why so many religions have revered this particular, very special land.
Well said, Adrienne. Thanks for talking to us about Petra. You have been a wonderful guest. Thanks for listening to Travel Tales with me, Isabella. Before we go, show some love by leaving us a review where you found this podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at Journey Hero app for more travel inspiration for some of the destinations around the globe. You can also sign up to our newsletter from our website, www.journeyhero.net to receive updates from me.